All right, welcome back, crime fighters. It's time for another edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place for all of us. I'm Chris Wright, your host, along with Calhoun County Sheriff Matthew Wade. Good to see you, Sheriff.
Always good to be on the show, Chris. I tell you what, beautiful weather, things are going on, just makes you get that little bit of that spring fever, you know.
I don't have a little bit of it.
I got a lot of it too, I understand.
Enjoy it while you can, because it's already starting to creep into summer, I think.
We're going from spring to blazing hot real quick.
We get maybe a week or two of spring around here, and then boom, gone.
That's right.
We want some help this week with a missing person. He's been missing for a little while.
Yes, you know, we didn't know that he was missing. The family come and made a report to us last week, and he has been, Mr. Knightley has struggled a little bit in his life with some substance abuse issues, which that does not mean anything derogatory towards him being a human being and people loving him, but he's kind of lived a little bit of a transient lifestyle. He didn't have a phone, he'd kind of come and go, he didn't regularly communicate with his family, but they haven't heard from him since November, and this is really not characteristic of him to go that long without talking to his family. And so they finally made a report with us, and we're trying to find any leads we can to locate Mr. Knightley. Hopefully he'll be safe and sound and maybe is doing something somewhere, but if anybody knows where he's at or have any leads on the whereabouts of Mr. Knightley's, please call the Sheriff's Office or Crime Stoppers. You know, we don't have to give us your name, we just need the information. And you know, these people just need some help.
And maybe even he's watching. If you are,
maybe,
Adam,
if you're Adam, if you're watching, you've done nothing wrong. We just need to know that you're okay and safe, and we're going to try to help this family as much as we can to help them find their loved ones.
All right. And of course, we do get information every week that helps us with cases and finding individuals. And again, this week, no exception.
No exception. We got one arrest. You know, that might be the lowest we've ever had, but we've never gone a week without an arrest. And that does bring our count up to 4,387 people arrested because somebody was willing to help us. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll have an opportunity for you to share some information again coming up here in just a minute. When we come back, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's take a look at the first half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. If you have information about where we can find any of these individuals right now, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We're going to start with Richard Edmondson of Gadsden. He is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance. Jason McDaniel of Oxford is wanted for failure to pay for third-degree burglary. Arnold Green of Talladega wanted on a failure to appear warrant for obstruction of justice using a false ID. Garrett Heathcock of Ohatchee wanted on a failure to appear warrant for domestic violence, third-degree assault. Lewis Abbott of Harpersville is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for theft of property, third degree. Jennifer Thomas of New Brockton is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for burglary, third degree. And Jonathan Smith of Lincoln, let me take a deep breath, is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for distribution of a controlled substance, possession of a controlled substance, illegal possession of prescription drugs, paraphernalia, selling and delivering, possession of marijuana, second degree, and use or possession of drug paraphernalia. If you have any information about these individuals, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. And we'll have the second half of this week's lineup coming up here in just a few minutes. But Sheriff, if you want to know what's going on around town, there's one guy to talk to.
There is definitely one guy that seems to have his hands in a lot of different things around our town.
A lot of good things. Pete Conroy from Jacksonville State University. Good to see you, Pete.
Gentlemen, good to see you both.
You really do get to play in several different playgrounds, and not to say that it's not work, but you do get to have a lot of fun with the projects that you're involved with. Always seem like they're interesting and bringing some good value back to our community.
I would like to think that's the case, but sometimes I do wonder what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Me too.
One of the things that you've been involved with here lately is to do with the Chief Ladiga Trail and making sure that people know about it and how they can use it.
you know, I wonder when people are watching this show, how many people really know about the Chief Ladiga Trail. Those of us who are on it and using it, you know, it's part of our lives. People walk on this paved pathway that goes through, you know, Anniston and Weaver and Jacksonville up to Piedmont, 2 different counties, Cleburne and Calhoun. It is one of the most remarkable things we have in all of Alabama, maybe in the United States. It's the 2nd longest rails to trails project in the United States. And as you know, we're trying to connect down to Anniston, and all the time there's additions, but we've never had a TV commercial. There's never been a spot that really describes its values and its virtues and helps people to use it appropriately. So I went to Johnny Smith, mayor of Jacksonville, and we started thinking about this, and he said, I'll see what I can do in putting together a little bit of money. And happened to have been with Lee Centel. You know, Lee's the director of tourism and travel for the state of Alabama, and he said, hey, whatever you guys can put together, we'll match it. And so we put together a nice little budget, $15,000. And so in the world of TV, that's not a whole lot, but we shot our first segment yesterday, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow. So it is important to let people, there's a lot of people that know the trail exists, but they don't necessarily know how they can connect with that trail and what all it includes. Of course, the trail itself is a long trail, but it also connects. It's I-20 for bikes. You can go to Atlanta.
That's exactly right. As you know, the Chief Ladiga connects with the Silver Comet. And so if you chose to do it, you could pretty much ride over to Atlanta later on today. But
It'd take more than a day for me.
Yeah, I think.
But I know several people who have done that ride, and usually they'll do it in one direction. The people that I know, somebody will drop them off in Atlanta and then come back and meet them or whatever, and they go the one direction. But we do have people from Atlanta that will ride over. They'll spend time in Calhoun County, spend money in Calhoun County, and then go back to Atlanta a day or two later.
So really, we shot the piece yesterday morning because it was pretty weather. And so that was, today's Tuesday, it was yesterday, it was Monday morning. And I could not believe how many people were out on the trail between 8 o'clock and noon. Again, the weather was really nice, but there were bicyclists, there were runners, there was a person in a wheelchair, there were, you name it, every type of activities out there, even people commuting and carrying groceries.
And that's on a weekday.
That was a weekday. There was an older couple, and I believe they were in their late 70s, early 80s, and they were literally riding to Maine. And no, I think there was a car somewhere in their history, in their life. But literally, that's how they chose retirement, is to ride bicycles, and they looked like very happy people.
And speaking of cars and getting around off of the trail itself, we've got bikes at home, but we've never put them on the Ladiga Trail. We don't have a bike rack on the car. But for people that don't have the bike rack or for whatever reason don't want to move their bikes or maybe don't even have bikes, you can now use the trail with a bike.
You get your phone, you get the app, and you wave your phone magically over the QR code, and you will be billed. It's but a couple of dollars, and you will have a free bike. Well, a couple of bucks that you spend, it's virtually a free bike, and it's really become popular. Yesterday when we were out, probably it was 3/4 of the folks had their own equipment, but probably a good solid quarter were pedaling around on those green rent-a-bikes.
So what are we talking about with the commercial?
Well, I think it was the diversity of the different types of people and the different modes of transportation. People walk their dogs and call it the Chief Ladiga. By the way, you have to have it on a leash, but the recumbent bikes, the ones that are way back like this, they look super comfortable, and people with back problems have been using them. There was people out that had claimed that for mental health, they choose to walk. And there are rumors of MDs, physicians in this area that have actually prescribed, not drugs, but time on the Chief Ladiga Trail. And I think that would do us all a good bit of good.
It's good in more ways than we realize. I just saw another study the other day that said 30 minutes of walking at a good tempo, not running, but just a good, quick, brisk walk, 30 minutes, can improve our mental capacity through the day, especially for people who are starting to get a little bit of age. It helps you think better. It helps your memory. Your brain is going to work better if your body is getting some exercise, and the Ladiga Trail is a great place to do that. We need to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We'll talk more about this and some other things that Pete's involved with in just a few moments. We'll also have the second half of this week's lineup when we come back on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. And now it's time for the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Stefan Hunter of Anniston is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance. Olivia Leal of Oxford is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance. Haley Brown of East Aboga wanted on bond revocation for receiving stolen property, 2nd degree. Scotty Miller of Weaver wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Thomas Preston of Piedmont wanted on a probation violation for the illegal possession of a credit or debit card. Stetson Satterfield of Alexandria wanted on a probation violation for fraudulent use of a credit card. And Rodney Gann of Ohatchee wanted on a probation violation for receiving stolen property, 1st degree. If you have any information about these individuals and where they are now, please call Calhoun County Crime Stoppers. That number is 256-238-1414. All right, we'll have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show coming up in just a few minutes. Sheriff, we've got several property crimes that we need a little bit of help with.
Always need some help.
Of course, Pete Conroy with us from Jacksonville State University. We've been talking about the Chief Ladiga Trail and this commercial that we're in the process right now of creating. Yesterday you were out there with the cameras getting some video to create this commercial. Tell me about the folks that are actually making it.
Sure, there's a gentleman by the name of Brad Gilbert, and he has a production company in Atlanta, the Buckhead area. Fortunate for us, he bought a house on Weiss Lake, so now he wanted a studio space closer to home, and he chose Longleaf, which is terrific for us. And Longleaf Studios is affiliated with Jacksonville State University up there, right next to the train depot. And but Brad has clients like, maybe you've heard of Coca-Cola. Maybe you've heard of Chick-fil-A, and Brad has done a lot of the videos for training, the training videos, and he does scrolling banners in the big stadiums. Really interesting guy, a lot of technology, but he was the one that they chose to do this video project, and we had drones out there, and really it was an exciting project. We'll have it online as soon as it's completed. But if anyone is particularly interested, they could go on the Chief Ladiga Facebook page and learn a little bit more.
What are we hoping that this commercial is going to do?
Well, I think bring more people to our community, and the money that you were talking about, yeah, more of that, and restaurants and overnight stays. And really, when people get to know how beautiful Calhoun County is, they'll come back and make it a pattern. We also want them to be safe when they get here, and we encourage, although it's not a state law, and I kind of wish it was, helmets are always a good idea. Again, dogs on leashes, very important. Have that cell phone, use the buddy system. If you choose to run alone, that's okay, but make sure you tell somebody when you're leaving and tell them when you get back. And Sheriff, you might have some background information about the Chief.
You know, the Ladiga Trail is really safe. We have very few incidents reported to us. Most of the time, if it's an incident, it's about somebody who lives close to the trail who doesn't keep their dog on a leash. It's not necessarily the animals that's being brought out there to be used. It's people's animals that they're not keeping up that live close to the trail. But it's really safe. If somebody calls 911, we'll be able to get to you. Having that phone is a very important thing. Also, keep an eye on where you're at. You know, if you pass a road, know what road you passed, and that way if somebody needs to know where you're at, you can kind of give them a little bit of description about, well, I just passed Max Welborn Road a few minutes ago, or something along that lines. And but really, it's a safe thing. We have very few that I can't even recall an incident where somebody's had a problem on the trail other than a dog or something. Somebody maybe riding an ATV on the trail that shouldn't supposed to be. But something along those lines, but nothing else has really been a problem for us. So.
Probably worth mentioning that we have a mile marker system.
We do.
And we confused everyone as best we could early on. We started with kilometers, and we started with a low number, in Anniston, and it got to the high number by the time. Anyway, that's a bad idea. And so now it is simply mile markers starting with 0 at the state line. So as you get into Alabama, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, etc.
Yes, and it's, you know, knowing where you're at is a good thing. It's a big deal, and but it's a really safe place to go.
Of course, we talk about people using the trail and bringing money in to spend with our local businesses, but it also can go a step beyond that, attracting the businesses themselves into our community, because quality of life is something that people are looking at when they try to decide where their company headquarters or where they're going to build a new plant or whatever. They look at that kind of thing, and this really adds a lot of quality of life to our community.
When you bring that up, you can't help but think about the Pinhoti Trail, which connects with the Appalachian Trail, the longest walking trail really in the country. Then think locally with Coldwater Mountain and the enormous amount of attention it has received by the mountain biking community. Can't help but talk about the Cheehaw Challenge and what's coming around the corner. And it's called an outdoor recreation and bicycle economy. And more and more people are caring about their health and wanting to get that thrill outdoors. And it's really a great space for our region to be leading.
There's 2 retired law enforcement officers that I know that are currently walking the Appalachian Trail. They left in late February, and they're walking to Maine, and I know they've hit over, every day I go look to see where they're at, but they've done over 700 miles of the 2,000-mile track of the Appalachian Trail.
Sheriff, these local folks?
These are local folks. They're both retired law enforcement officers, and they're on, I'll give you the thing, that you can follow them on Instagram, but every day I go look to see where they're at, and they take a couple of shots, so it's really interesting.
That's
I hiked
fantastic.
the entire width of the Appalachian Trail. I did it in one day. The
yeah.
entire width. All right, that's all the time we've got for today, but thank you, Pete, for coming in
bet.
again, and look forward to seeing the video when it's ready. All right. We will be back in just a few moments. We'll have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show and our Crazy Criminal of the Week on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. And now time for the Crime Stoppers segment of the show. We've got some property crimes that we need your help solving. On April 30th at approximately 2 a.m., an unknown person attempted to forcibly enter a home on Choccolocca Road in Anniston. Between April 23rd and April 27th, a barn was burglarized on Old Downing Mill Road in Anniston. A Husqvarna leaf blower and a key were stolen. On May 1st, a burglary on Halls Chapel Road was reported. A DeWalt circular saw, a battery jump box, and a Cobalt aluminum truck toolbox were stolen. Between April 24th and May 1st, a home on Renault Street in Anniston was burglarized. A guitar was stolen. And also between April 24th and May 1st, a gray tractor was stolen from the yard of a home located on Iron City Road in Anniston. If you have any information, please share it with Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name, and you could get a cash reward of up to $1,000.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
All right, Sheriff, sometimes when you arrest somebody or you're talking to someone of interest, you discover some things on their person that aren't supposed to be there, right?
It happens. Sure does.
And we had a couple that were in Florida, and they were stopped by a police officer who discovered 42 small turtles and a soft shell turtle as well in a backpack that they were carrying. That wasn't quite it. He continued. He didn't stop and assume that that was it. He also found that the woman in the couple had had something in her yoga pants, an alligator.
I'd have to say that would probably be, first and foremost, she didn't tell me she had an alligator in her pants. Hopefully you could tell with the yoga pants.
That's what I'm thinking. Yoga pants probably not the best place to hide anything.
But that thing's got a pinch, man. I mean, that's not good. I mean,
it wasn't a full grown, but it was about a foot long.
Man, I still don't care. That thing's got teeth, man. Were they playing a shell game? I don't know. I mean, but we have, in all honesty, we have arrested, game wardens have brought people to our jail before for illegally harvesting turtles. So that is a law in Alabama.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we got for this week. We'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup or with an alligator down your yoga pants on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.